So to get started, we do have CMEs. So this QR code here and this code, the 41BUTS, is for CMEs, or the medical continuing education credit. So if anyone needs those, feel free to scan it. We will also have CEs for social work and McBack credits as well. Those will be, information will be sent in the chat, and then we will also send that out after the fact too. I believe, Jesse, do you have that put in the chat too right now?
Yes. So
Awesome.
I put a PDF in the chat for everyone.
Before we get into the good stuff with motivational interviewing, we just want to provide a quick overview of the Michigan Opioid Collaborative. A lot of you guys may have already heard this information, but just to recap. So we're the Michigan Opioid Collaborative. We're an interdisciplinary team that aims to provide or support providers and communities to increase access to office-based addiction treatment, expand care, and improve quality of care for patients with opioid and other substance use disorders throughout the state of Michigan. MOC is grant funded through the Blue Cross Blue Shield and through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. We offer same-day consultation services to provide evidence-based quality addiction treatment. And our team of specialists are available to help with patient case questions related to treatment and management of substance use disorders. It is available Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We also offer quarterly introduction of buprenorphine trainings. This is open to anyone who's interested, not only those who actually prescribe buprenorphine or medications for opioid use disorder. We also offer webinars such as this one and other ones on addiction, stigma, and substance use topics. All of our webinars are available on our MOC YouTube page, and most of our webinars and trainings provide continuing education credits or CMEs and are noted on our website on which ones do offer those. We also have a hepatologist on our team who offers Hep C treatment consultation within 48 hours, biweekly case consultation webinars to review cases with providers, and has developed a 3-part webinar series that is on our website. And we have toolkits to providers to help them learn more with resources for treating patients with multiple SUDs. You can check out our website or reach out to your local behavioral health consultant to talk about how else MOC can help support you, or if you need any other assistance. All right, so our discussion today is going to be very collaborative. We're going to be asking a lot of you guys, so if you want to use the chat, unmute yourself, whatever feels most comfortable for you all as we engage in this discussion on information. We're going to leave lots of time for questions throughout, so if you have a question that's not even answering the question that we pose, but just a question to like dive deeper into something, feel free to raise that and we will be sure to answer it. You can unmute yourself, and there's also the raise hand option. So we put a screenshot of what that looks like in order to get that in the Zoom window. So just click on reactions, and then there's an option to raise hands, and we will try to call on you. And just being conscious of giving folks who haven't had a chance to chime in a chance to do so. All right. So to get started, when you guys think of motivational interviewing, what comes to mind? A word, a phrase?
Collaboration.
Collaboration, definitely. Thank you.
Roll with the resistance.
Oh, yes. You may butt heads every now and then. So how to move forward from that, right?
Change talk.
Change talk, yeah. Stages of change too. Like, where is that person in whatever change they're working through? Yeah. Open-ended questions, motivation or desire to change. Yes. Being able to help. I'm sorry.
Positive communication.
Positive communication. Great.
Empowering.
Empowering. Yes. Miracle question. Mm-hmm. Assessing interest and willingness to change. Great. Awesome. Yeah, and I don't know if you all have heard too, but the Miller and Rolnick are creating a new motivational interviewing book. So it'll be the 4th edition, and they're updating the evocation of the MI spirit. So there's 4 parts of MI spirit. There's partnership, acceptance, collaboration, and evocation, but they're changing evocation to empowering. So I don't know more about it other than that, but yeah, so that will be a fun new thing to learn. Great. Yeah, so you guys are already really aware of what is motivational interviewing. That it's definitely a collaborative approach to talking with someone, making sure that you're kind of pulling from them, what is their change, what is their motivation behind something, and how to make sure that you're like empowering and encouraging them, right, to take what they already have to make a change. So Miller and Rolnick, the creators or founders of motivational interviewing, have these 3 different definitions that they use to define motivational interviewing. There's like the beginning definition that's just really simple, straightforward. And it gets kind of more in depth as you go to the practitioner and the technical definition. We'll be sharing these slides with you, so you don't need to write all this down. I also just wanted to share, like, I highlighted the like drawing from the person, right? This is a very person-centered. And so for this discussion with affirmations, we're really going to try to pull from the client or the person that you're working with their own motivation, their own reasons, their own behaviors that they've been doing to help motivate them and help them understand that they can make the change that we're talking about. So overall, MI is a particular way of talking with people, asking questions and responding to what they say. So like I said, today we're going to focus on how to talk with people while focusing on affirmations and affirming them.
All right, so the ORs, as you might know them, are the 4 basic sort of techniques in motivational interviewing that you're going to want to use early on and throughout your relationship with your client. But today we are going to be focusing on affirmations specifically. So let me go to the next slide here.
There we go. Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. So again, affirmations. And I guess we wanted to ask you all, what benefits are you already seeing in affirming people, not just in your work, but just in general in your life as well?
Well, what I see is that I'm helping them build their self-worth and self-esteem, and they feel heard. So the benefits is they feel better about themselves when they feel heard.
Definitely, yeah. And feeling seen and heard is like really important in relationship, whether it be a counselor or a therapist. And I love all of these examples that you're putting in the chat. Self-efficacy, establishing rapport, closer connections, feeling seen and heard, more open. Yeah, normalizing their experiences. They feel less alone. Awesome. These are all really great. I can't possibly read all of them. Yeah, affirming people's needs. You are an ally for them. Perceived empathy. Awesome. So it sounds like you all are already seeing a lot of benefits in affirming people. So if we move into the next slide, we have some research on this. But ultimately, yeah, we know that, you know, this is a collaborative method to help people find strengths. And we know that shaming people is not effective. So in terms of affirmations, there was a study of 92 college students who were using alcohol in a harmful way, and they had motivational interviewing sessions with counselors. So the sessions were coded, and they looked at trends to therapist language and participant language. And ultimately, they found that affirmations were the only thing that both increased change talk and decreased sustained talk. And I know someone had already mentioned change talk, but for those of you who may need a refresher, change talk is any self-expressed language that is an argument for change. And this predicts improved health outcomes. And then sustained talk is the opposite. So the person's own arguments for not changing or for maintaining the status quo. And sustained talk actually predicts poorer outcomes. So sort of the goal of MI is to increase change talk, decrease sustained talk. And here we have some evidence that affirmations are one of those helpful things that can actually do that. Awesome. And so a lot of you said some of these already, but this is a list of the positive functions of affirmations. And it's one thing I want to highlight is the importance of affirming early on in your relationships with your clients. So especially in reducing defensiveness. The more that you are able to get ahead of any defensiveness, the more effective the affirmation will be received. And affirmations can help to heal any sort of tension in your working alliance. And it's also important to be sincere and genuine, because when you're sincere, it tends to diminish defensiveness, and it reflects just having a respectful relationship. And a lot of this is also planting the seed. So even if someone is in the pre-contemplative stages of change, just creating an affirming environment, that way they know that they can return to that environment if and when they're ready to make a change. And yeah, retention and treatment really goes into that as well. People are more likely to trust you, listen to you, be open with you, and come back when they're ready to make that change.
All right. Great. So it sounds like you guys are already really familiar with affirmations. So what are some favorite affirmations that you may have already in your toolbox? Ones that you've heard like others give, or ones that you use? I hear you.
I start off with saying what strengths you have in order to deal with whatever they're dealing with. How did you do that? Sounds like you did a good job considering where you're at.
Yeah. They've already run into a lot of challenges throughout their time, right? Before they get to you. So they've done something. Yeah. I see other ones like you're strong. You've done hard things before.
Mm-hmm.
You're really deserving. You've made a lot of progress in a specific area. The fact that they even reached out, that is great, Anne. Thank you for adding that in. Like that alone, right? The fact that they're even talking to you. Even if they're mandated, they don't have to talk to you, right? Like they could, even if they're mandated, they could choose not to show up, right? And then the other options are available. Using you, not I. You showed strength. You have been through a lot. These are great. Bravery and being vulnerable. Yeah. Awesome. You guys have some amazing affirmations that you kind of already have in your toolbox. So the rest of our discussion is just kind of going to be like just reaffirming that, right, within yourselves too. As you can tell, Emma gets very meta where you guys are already affirming. I'm affirming that you're affirming. Everyone's affirming. All right, so this next one here. So this is similar to what someone just brought up, right? That sometimes it may not be clear what the affirmation is, right? Or what are the person's strengths. So there's some ways to try to dig for self-affirmation. So seeing what are their strengths? What have they succeeded at before? What are something that they've been determined in, given it their all. I also realized too that these statements can sometimes feel like an interview and feel like not like your genuine self. So I'm curious too if there's other things that or other ways to ask these questions that feel more genuine for you all that you would like to share.
So in some of my programs that I do, we start off sessions by doing something like a glows and grows or like a sunshine cloud. So I feel like that could be an excellent opportunity to notice those sunshines or things where they enjoyed things or they spent time doing something they liked or they succeeded. If you built something like that into the beginning of whatever sort of session or program that you're running, that could be a natural way.
Great. Yeah. And I like the idea of having it. Oh, I'm sorry, Shane, go ahead.
One thing I heard on the internet the other day that stuck with me, I think it was yesterday morning, was asking them, what would your mom say about you? What would your mom say are your strengths? Why does this person think you're a good friend? Why does this person think you're a good sister? So asking, because they can't like always identify their strengths. I do like assessments, and part of it is asking, what are your strengths? And if they can't come up with anything, I used it yesterday actually, and I was like, well, tell me what your grandpa would say you do good.
Yeah. And you're right, Shannon. A lot of them can't even say what their strengths are at all. And to encouraging them to do it without making them feel bad about not knowing what they are or even identifying them, and that I've used that too, what would someone else say? Or if they can't even think about anything anybody else would say, I said, well, I would say, I'll turn it back and say, well, I would say that you're resilient. You know,
Mhm.
and I would say it, So when they can't find anybody to identify, then I said, well, I will say.
Yeah.
And I've done that often.
Jessica, I see your hand raised too.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I do something called, in my jail groups, I do motivational minute. And I actually have like a whole, oh, you can't really see it, but, I ask who or what motivates you, what keeps you going, especially when times get tough, who or what inspires you, what advice or positive sayings have you heard that inspire and motivate you personally, what gives you wisdom, power, drive, energy, momentum, and strength not to give up. So those are just kind of something that I use in my group.
Great.
Hey, I would like that. I
Yeah,
like
if you
that,
can
Jessica.
share that, Jessica, that'd be great. If you could send it to us, I can put my email in the chat and then we could try to send it out when we send the
I
slides
like
too.
that.
Absolutely.
These are great examples. Thank you all for that. And I like that. Yeah, Shannon, what you said about like, sometimes it's hard to be positive on our own selves, right? Like, regardless of your history or anything, right? Like, I even find it hard sometimes to be like positive on myself. So it's nice to be able to think about like, not my own like self-doubt or anything, but like, what have other people said about me, right? And like, what have other people noticed? Realizing that some people may need faith integrated too. So like, what I have like the word of God. Right. Yeah. So you guys are already familiar and like have some tools to think about, like, do I already ask these questions? If you don't already ask them, then taking time after this or during this session to think through, like, how would I ask what are your strengths in a way that feels genuine to me, right? Just because people can sense if you're not being genuine. And if it feels more like an interview than actually connecting with someone on a personal level. So for affirming. So what we've been talking about, right? The focus is on the person. There is a difference too between affirming and praising. And we'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide too. And then there is this note in the MI book about being aware of I statements, like I am proud of you. Because MI focuses on having a partnership. And so if you say I'm proud of you, it could come off as like I am more of an expert or I am more like I'm just like higher than you, right? In terms of like this hierarchy in this relationship. I have these two asterisks though, because I do recognize that sometimes people have never heard I am proud of you and they need to hear that. And the fact that you have worked with them and you've seen their changes throughout the years or their months or their days, right? Could be helpful. I love Amber put, you should be proud of yourself. Yeah, so kind of putting it back on the person. This is something to be proud of. Cool. So just normalizing it. Like in general, this progress you've made is something that you could be, is something to be proud of. So just realizing like some people may need to hear it, kind of feel it out, right? Maybe use it once, see what the reaction is, and then like, okay, I can't use that with this person, right? So just making sure that we're not relying heavily on that, or using some of these other suggestions that everyone has put in the chat. This is, yeah, great. So just notice, recognize, and acknowledge the positive. Some people may just have a more negative outlook on everything that they're doing, right? And so just trying to find like a strength-based approach to what they are saying. We're going to practice that too a little bit later. So any positive, right? The fact someone mentioned earlier that they're talking to you, they showed up to this session, right? Like whatever they're doing, no matter how big or small, the fact that there is something that we can kind of affirm, or their efforts or their intentions or their behaviors. And so we try to focus on those things rather than like emotions or something else that like what is going to be helpful to affirm to help that client or that person understand that they have within themselves the capacity to make the change that they're looking for and are working with you on. Yeah, exactly. Like talking to you is something that is very vulnerable for people, right? And so just thanking them for their willingness to share things and be vulnerable. That is great. Thank you for that. Reframing the person's actions or situations in a positive light. Again, it's very strength-based approaches that we're thinking about here. And again, just trying to be genuine. People can hear if you just are using the same affirmation you use it with everyone and you don't really mean it with this person, right? So you can use the same affirmation with everyone, but just make sure it is accurate for this person that you're talking to. So there's cheerleading and affirming, right? So cheerleading is thought to be like an extension of the writing reflex. So the writing reflex, for those who may not be familiar, is when we see someone going down a path and we're like, oh, don't do that. Like, let's move back this way, right? Like we know what can tend to happen if someone goes down a certain way. And so we want to we see a need and we want to help them. It's very natural in the health and helping professions, right? That we want to make sure that people are living their best life and doing the best that they can. Cheerleading is also relying on us. So it's needed for us to be there to constantly be cheering that person on. Versus affirming, it's about them, right? We are just kind of acting as the mirror of what they already are doing and just affirming what they are already doing versus what is coming from us. We want to help recognize their own skills, strengths, and capacities. And it also is speaking the truth, right? Just reading the chat real quick. Yeah, so someone admitting that they may have been using another drug that maybe they didn't tell you about previously. Yeah, just the fact that they are open and honest with you, right? And they're engaging with you is something to affirm. We have some more examples here. You guys already shared great ones. And so just trying to really think about any kind of little or big thing that may have happened that you can affirm the client on. So you really tried hard this week. Maybe nothing worked for them, right? They came up to a bunch of roadblocks and they feel like this week was just something to throw out, right? But the fact that they tried this week, the fact that they showed up, maybe they were thinking about stopping drinking and they only went down to 5 days a week instead of 7. That's still a strong start, right? So trying just to see what kind of little things you can pull out to affirm that the person is capable of making some change. So how to form affirmations. I mean, we've already had 18 slides, right? So there's a lot of information that we're giving you here. Overall, just make sure you're not overthinking it. Just start with you, speak the characteristic you notice, and just be on the lookout for it. So you seem very organized, how you have a plan and action. You are very caring, right? Now we're going to start practicing.
Yeah, so the first 3 examples we're going to do as a larger group. And then after that, we'll have 2 more in the breakout rooms. So Laura will be copying the link to the Google Doc into the chat. And for those of you who don't have access to Google Docs on your work computer, we will also be putting a Word document in the chat just so that you can download these and have the examples in front of you, especially because once we go into breakout rooms, I don't think that the screen share will work anymore. So with that being said, we can get started on the first example just as a full group. All right. So this is a client who is saying to you, why do you keep asking about these things? You can't know what I've been through. People like you have an easy life. I didn't have the chance to get a college degree. So all my life, I've worked to make my life better than it was for me to try to be a better parent, save mistakes, and look what it's amounted to. Do you think I want things to be like this? I want to have my kids back. It breaks my heart. I want my job back too. I doubt you've ever been through any of this. So this is, this is a hard thing to kind of respond to. So let's try an affirmation. So first, what strengths can you pull from what this person is saying?
They are resilient, or they have intentions to be.
Yeah, definitely.
They recognize some of their-
They have a
Will-
vision for, they have a vision for change, or they're motivated.
Even though it's hard for them to see it, they still show up. They still are in there.
I would say assertiveness. They're telling you how they feel.
They're able to actually just list their goals.
True.
I mean, they
have
may be
commitment.
they may be the easy ones, but they're still goals.
Yep. True.
They talk about working their whole life, like trying to work on it. So that's commitment. Yeah.
Mhm. They're telling you they're motivated. They want their children back.
And they're not giving up, even though they feel down. They still have hope.
I was just going to say the same thing about hope. They have persistence, tenacity in the face of adversity. They still have hope. They have the confidence to speak their mind.
Yep. Perseverance.
I see tenacity there.
Thank you all for that.
Yeah, these are all great. Thank you. And then we can kind of use some of these strengths to create an affirmation statement. Does anyone want to give that a try?
You've been through a lot, but you're not willing to give up.
And
You do
look
not want your children to go through the same things that you went through.
You want in
And
the
look at
chat
you.
too. Sorry, someone said you sound determined to work hard to achieve the things you want.
You continue to show up even though it's hard.
That's good.
It took a lot of courage to get here to do this.
Yeah.
Immense amount
I'm,
of
ama-
strength.
I'm amazed at the fact that you're showing up and really trying very hard to get your kids back. I'm amazed at what I see, because it sounds like it's been very hard.
Great. Lots of challenges coming up there. Yeah, and that's please.
I might affirm, acknowledge the adversity that they've been, you haven't had advantages, and you've had to work really hard on your own to try to make your life better, than it was for you. And then, kind of acknowledging what they said about that.
One thing with this too, right, is that it could be really easy to become self-defend yourself too, right? Like this person is challenging you and like, what gives you the right to talk to me about this stuff, right? And so I like what you guys are taking with that, right? Like affirming, like, and seeing the strength in this person. And so recognizing that this is a partnership and like, you have so much that you're bringing.
And can I say this, not taking it personal when someone is frustrated, or speaking out of their truth, not taking it personal. Helps you be more affirming.
And I think where it says, do you think I want things to be like this? Like affirming that you're doing it. You're making the changes right now. You're not stuck. You're not in this place. You are doing it.
Yeah.
Also saying this is really important to you and you want to make sure that I understand.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's nice because, yeah, it's also bringing in the discussion that I do hear that you have doubt in our like ability to work together towards this thing, right? And that you want to make sure that this is like a partnership, right? Just to read way more into it.
Yeah, and it kind of opens up being like, the more insight you provide, then the better I'm able to understand, and just kind of helps lower their guard.
Yeah.
Often I'll make an analogy about something, and especially a question like, this statements. I kind of say, well, how do you eat a whole pie, right? And I give them a chance to think about it, and I say a piece at a time. So even though I see all of these challenges in front of us, we can break this down a piece at a time. We can still get the job done.
Yeah. Great. Thank you all for that. All right, we have a couple more examples. All right, so this next one, no one listens to me when I tell them about my medications not working. They just think I want to get more to get high and don't trust me. People think I can't change and don't want to get to know me. They think I'm just another typical client and I'm not. I know this medication could work better. It has before, and now no one believes me. So what are some strengths that we're seeing here? Advocating for self.
They have experience. They know what's worked and what hasn't worked for them in the past.
assertiveness again, and then I also think some confidence in themselves.
Oh,
Not giving up, perseverance.
insight, great. Hope, belief, determined, great. Knows their own limits, awesome. All right, I see some people already put in affirmations. So what are some affirmation statements we could make from these strengths? Sometimes too, right? We already have the strengths. And so we could make that into a statement, right? Like you want to make sure you always advocate for yourself, right? Like just finding the strength and making it into a statement.
I'd say something like, you're not willing to settle for less than what you deserve or what you need.
Yeah. And Foley's in the chat too. You don't give up easily. You're the knower, not me. Great. You seem to have a good grasp on your needs. I also like going through these exercises like on paper because it just takes the pressure off of you, right? Of being in the moment with the client and trying to think of this. So I really like doing exercises like this so I can kind of practice and have some things that I could go, oh yeah, this is how I could pull out from this client, like things that may feel like a challenge to me, right? Like, and why am I the person talking to them? So kind of giving some behind the scenes. You're committed to finding something that works for you the way you need it to. Great. You're self-aware. These are great. Yeah, just making sure that we're like pulling from this person, right? Like they are coming to us and sharing that vulnerability, and you guys are finding the way to affirm that so that it can keep them going, right? Like we don't want to shut down this confidence and self-advocacy that they have for themselves. We want to make sure that that's going to go through with any other changes that they want to encounter. All right, we have one more group example, and then we're going to do a couple breakout ones too.
All right, so for this one, it says, James is a father of two who started seeing you about his drinking and job instability. He struggles with session attendance. He's balancing two jobs and mentions that his drinking has been increasing from a few beers to wind down at the end of the day to becoming unmanageable. He shows up to work late and has faced disciplinary action at his job. So what are some strengths that we can pull from James?
He still continues to come to work, regardless. Perseverance.
He loves his children.
He knows that he needs help.
Yeah, these are all great examples. And yet having two jobs is a lot to coordinate. Awesome. So one thing we added to this example is what are some questions that you can ask to elicit more strengths? Can anyone think of an example?
How do you manage to have two children and two jobs?
What are some positive things that you experience on your job? What do you like about being a parent?
Great, Lillian, I like that pulling from like what someone else may say, right? So again, if this person may not have like their own insight to their accomplishments or their strengths, asking what would your children say is there to do with you?
Awesome. So we have a lot of different questions that James can answer, and quite a few strengths as well. So can anyone come up with an affirmation statement for this one?
I'm amazed at the strength and the courage you have to just admit where you're at.
You have a lot on your plate and you're still able to move forward.
You have a lot on your plate and you're still choosing to come to therapy or help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like you reached out for help when you knew you needed it.
Mhm.
Great, thank you, everyone. So I guess the next thing to do is do the next 2 exercises on the worksheet. If you haven't downloaded it, we can put it in the chat again, so you don't have to scroll through all of these messages. But we will break into smaller groups and you can discuss the next 2 case studies, pull out strengths, find questions you can ask to elicit strengths, and then develop some affirmation statements. So Laura and I will work on trying to figure out how to put you all into breakout rooms.
We may not have time too, so I think if we could at least focus on one of them, and then we're going to come back together to talk about how it went, and if you have any questions, and then just do a couple last minute things. So maybe if we come back around like 12:54, and we can see how things are going.
Yeah, if you just want to focus on the first one, if you don't have time for the second one.
So breakout rooms, I am going to create them right now, and it will automatically assign you. So it will just pull you into a breakout room. You'll be in another room, and then around 12:54, we will close them, and Zoom will automatically pull you back into this main meeting. So just to give everyone that update on what it is. Thank you for asking and letting us know that you are not sure what breakout rooms are. So there's the Google Doc again. And let me also share the Word document in there in case you don't have access to Google. All right, and I am going to create the breakout rooms. There's also an option in the breakout rooms to raise your hand or like ask a question, and Jesse and I can come and see if you need any assistance. So on your screen, you should have an option to join the room.
I think there's one room where there's only one. Oh, never mind. Now there's 2 people in it.
We tried looking at that though and realizing, yeah, is there, I think room 4 is only has 1 person. So
We can move Dr. Glenn into a different room so that she gets to do the exercise, I think. Oh, maybe move
room 3, is that right?
There's also room 14 because there's only 1 person in room 14.
Oh yeah, let's move Megan Montgomery too. Move Megan to 15. Well, thank you for realizing that. Let's also probably.
I feel like that one was a lot harder than the first 3.
Yes, definitely. All right. So let's talk through it as a group. So young man stands before a juvenile justice judge for the 3rd time in less than a year, arrested for possession of marijuana, hanging out with some friends when some other college students started hassling them. He jumped in and the brawl ensued. As the police arrived and broke up the fight, a bag of pills fell out of his pocket. I realized that is not consistent then. I think we tried to change it to pills because now marijuana is legal. So sorry for that inconsistency there. Yeah, so what are some strengths that you guys all came up with for this?
He stands up for his friends.
I also see in the chat that he attended court. Courage.
He's resilient to be able to survive on the streets.
Yeah.
And resourceful.
He has friends.
Yep.
He wants to feel better. Usually people are using marijuana trying to decrease some feelings of anxiety or something. There's a reason he's using that.
So instead of just saying like, okay, well, I mean, this is just a lost cause, right? Constantly in front of the judge, getting into fights, takes an insolent attitude, like what positive is there, right? And so the fact that you guys are able to pull out all of this from this kind of statement, right? So just thinking through and trying to take a step back and see like, what are the positive, what are the strengths of this person who's talking to me right now? Showing commitment to his case, yeah. So what kind of questions could you use to elicit strengths? So if you're having a hard time, today's not your day, right? You're not able to pull strengths out from this person. Like, how could you ask them? What are some strengths?
What could you have done differently, or what could you have done better?
What motivated you to get to court today?
Even just a basic, like, how did it feel when they started hassling you? just to get them to open up about their feelings. And then that can kind of be a piggyback of, so you know your worth, you know that you shouldn't have to feel this way for survival, things like that.
Talk to me about some of the things you do to survive.
Great. And then how have you handled conflict before without using violence? Great. How about some affirmations we have here?
You can stand up for what you think is right, even though you know it might not have the best outcome.
I think I missed some of the words you put up in there, but yeah.
You care deeply about people in your life.
You are loyal. You are resourceful. Good sense of self. You're independent. You have a big heart. Great.
Good entrepreneur.
A good entrepreneur. Great. Yeah. So and you own your actions for showing up.
But, you know, oftentimes, especially with something like this, I try to lighten it up a little bit with a little humor. So I would say something like,
if that's genuine too, right? Then it brings like your true self to the relationship. Yeah.
You know, like, hey, what were you thinking? You know, I get what you were trying to do, but you know, what were you thinking? But you were thinking, right? So yeah.
All right.
You were not smoking the marijuana in public. It was in your pocket.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
So they had the marijuana on them, but they weren't, actively using it.
Yeah, because sometimes people just smoke it out. It's not legal to just be outside smoking it, but he did have it in his pocket. He could have been smoking it.
Yeah. Great. Thank you all for that. So obviously we ran out of time. Here's another example if you would like to try that on your own. We'd like to see how you'd fit affirmations into your daily work. And while that's coming through, Jesse, do you want to put the poll up? We're interested in hearing from you all what other kind of lunch and learn hours you would like to hear for like go through with us. So kind of multitask here, kind of future lunch and learns, and what kind of affirmations do you see like fitting into your daily work? All right. Thank you all for staying. We'll be sending these slides out too. They have more resources in here on just remembering the positive functions, how much training do you need for motivational interviewing, learning groups, resources. So if you want to do more practice, there's some in here, and then we will also be holding more lunch and learns in the near future.
Are you going to be sending out the resources in the email?
We will be sending the all the slides. So all the resources will be linked in there. Yeah. And thank you all for these polls too, so we know what else would be great. Thank you, Jessica, for sharing the motivational minute too. That would be great. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.